Hello, students. Today we'll be taking up the next poem from Flamingo, which is A Thing of Beauty, which is written by John Keats. Now, John Keats is considered to be one of the most prominent romantic poets who has ever lived. He was born in 1795 and he died in 1821, so he lived for just around 26 years. And he died at a comparatively very young age, at an age when many of his contemporary poets had not even taken up writing. And there are many who believe that had John Keats lived for a few more years, he would have surpassed even the great William Wordsworth for that matter. Now, this poem is it's all about how small little things which we see around us can bring about a beautiful change in our mind and our heart and can change the way we think, the way we perceive. And as we read the poem, children, you'll understand what the poet is trying to tell us. So, the first few lines: a thing of beauty is a joy forever. Its loveliness increases, it will never pass into nothingness. So, here the poet says that if there is something that is beautiful in this world, it will remain beautiful throughout and it will never ever change. It will never pass into nothingness. Its beauty will only increase with time and its beauty can never decrease. All the material things which we find around us, they can give us happiness only for a very short time. But true things of beauty, it can only become more and more beautiful as each days pass. So, but we'll keep a bower quiet for us and a sleep full of sweet dreams and health and quiet breathing. He says something as simple as a branch of a tree, quiet branch of a tree. That is enough to give us enough happiness in our heart to have enabled us to sleep blissfully throughout the night. It can give us a very sleep, a peaceful sleep at night, full of sweet dreams and health and quiet breathing. That means something which is as petty as a quiet bower. Bower means a branch of a tree. A quiet branch of a tree, when we see, is, it brings about a kind of peace in our mind and our heart, and that peace enables us to sleep peacefully throughout the night. It gives us good health and it gives us good breathing. Good breathing, quiet breathing here refers to regular breathing. That means good health. Okay, so from there it says, therefore, on every morrow we are wreathing a flowery band to bind us to the earth. Therefore, each one of us, each day, morrow here means day, each day we are wreathing a flowery band to bind us to the earth. Each day, our endeavor is, our attempt is to make our each day more and more meaningful with our deeds so that we stay connected to the Mother Earth. And as long as we here stay connected to the earth, as long as we stay connected to Mother Nature, it will take care of us. It will give us happiness, it will give us prosperity, it will give us good health, and we will always be happy, and will always be remain in a blissful state of mind as long as we are on this earth. Okay, he says, spite of despondence, of the inhuman dearth of noble natures, of the gloomy days, of all the unhealthy and over-darkened ways made for our searching. Here the poet says, he says, I know it's difficult, it's not easy for us to remain happy and to be inspired by the things of beauty which we see around us every day. Why? Because in spite of despondence, I says, because each day brings upon us a new kind of sadness, of the inhuman dearth of noble natures, when we see all the human beings around us and we see how, to what extent they can fall, and when we see, we are affected by the lack of noble natures which they display. Of the gloomy days, there are days when we are not happy, there are days which bring sadness into our lives. Of all the unhealthy and over darkened ways made for our searching, and there are many days in our life when we look towards the future and we are not able to find a way out, it all brings sadness. He says, yes, in spite of all, some shape of beauty moves away the pall from our dark spirits. He says, yes, in spite of all this, there are still some beautiful things in this nature, which nature has bestowed upon us, which removes the pall. Pall here refers to the black cloth which is put on a dead body. He says, all the beautiful things which we find in nature, it removes this pall, that means this dark cloth which covers our heart, because of which we are not able to enjoy the beauty of the day and the beauty of nature which is offered to us. All the sadness which we experience in our daily lives, it somehow makes us cynical each day, and it makes us sad, and we're not able to enjoy the good days. But still, there are good things which can remove all this. And then it gives us example. These good things which is talking about us: the sun, the moon, the trees old and young, sprouting a shady boon for the simple sheep. He says, if we look around us in nature, we'll find the sun, the moon, the trees, the old and young trees, the plants, the herbs, the green grass, everything can add to the beauty. It is how involved we get with nature. And something as simple as the shade which is produced by the tree for the sheep. The sheep knows it goes towards nature when it wants a shade. So if something as simple as a sheep can turn towards nature to find peace and to find shade and to get what it wants, it will find that healing touch in the nature. So we human beings, we are expected to turn towards nature each time we face dejection in our lives. And such are daffodils, with the green world they live in, and clear rills that for themselves a cooling covert make against the hot season. And then he gives us another example. The next example he gives us is that of daffodils, the beautiful daffodils, you know. And when you pass through them, you can see the gentle daffodils swaying in the gentle breeze. And with the green world they live in, all around them you'll find greenery, and the clear rills that for themselves a cooling cover make against the hot season. The simple stream as it flows down the mountain, the cool water that it possesses, it remains cool. Why? Because it's covered with that fern and herbs and shrubs on both sides, and as the water flows between it, the herbs and shrubs, it produces a kind of shade, and it ensures that the water remains cool. So even when it passes through kilometers and kilometers, the water still remains cool. That is how nature produces a miraculous effect. The mid forest brake, rich with the sprinkling of fair musk rose blooms. And he says, even if you go to nature, even if you go to the depth of the forest, there, if you look around, you may not find too many things with which you can identify, with which you can give happiness. But there, again, in between the forest, you'll find a sudden fragrance. And you stop and you look around to see where the fragrance is coming from. And as you penetrate further into the forest, you'll find there is a thick growth of rose which has bloomed, and that is adding to the lovely atmosphere there, that produces a lovely atmosphere. And such too is the grandeur of the dooms we have imagined for the mighty dead. He says, similarly, we have not seen heaven. None of us have seen heaven, but we all imagine that heaven is a lovely place where our forefathers, our ancestors, they have died and have risen up to. And we believe that our ancestors, they live in the so-called beautiful place, heaven. And we imagine that heaven is a lovely place. So he says that if we can imagine heaven to be a lovely place which we have not even seen, the lovely heaven which we find on earth, that definitely has a more miraculous healing effect, and we should turn to it. And he says, grandeur of the dooms we have imagined for the mighty dead. All lovely tales that we have heard or read. We have read about heaven only in tales, only in fables, only in fairy stories, fairy tales and stories. We have imagined, we have read about heaven, but we still imagine it to be a beautiful place. Then why not earth where we are living? An endless fountain of immortal drink pouring unto us from the heavens brink. Then he says, from the heavens, you'll find, there's a constant flow of inspiration, constant source of joy, which is flowing down and which keeps us happy throughout. The beauty of nature is like an endless fountain pouring onto us from heaven. These are the never diminishing and endless source of pleasures and delight, and a precious gift from heaven. So, this is something, uh, nature, which we find all around us. It remains, in our hearts with pleasure and gives us everlasting peace and happiness. So, the poet urges us to turn towards nature each time in life. We want consolation. Each time we want to look for peace, we need to turn towards nature, and it would ensure that peace and stability in our lives. Thank you, children.